All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, you should have received your uh, Hebrew lesson in your email this morning. Um, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this first sentence. So our very first word, remember we're moving from the right to the left. All right. So what is our first word here? We have the letter resh, and it's pointed with, this is the vocal shva because it's under the first letter in the word, right? So it's going to give us a quick E. So that's re, re. And then we have ayi or aleph, right? Silent letter, but it's pointed sere with a hey behind it. So that gives us e. So we have re, okay? Re. All right, so re. All right. So what about our second word here? What do we have? Okay, so we have the letter, we have the letter ayin, which is a silent letter, right? And then it's being followed by a nun that's pointed with shva. So what we have here is, this is a closed syllable because it ends with a consonant sound. And it's in a non-stressed part of the word. So this is not kamatz. This is kametz ketuv. So this is going to make an O sound here. So if this makes an O sound, that means it's short, right? Kametz ketuv is short. So then that gives us nun with what type of shva? Silent shva, because it's following a short duration vowel point. So we have on. Then we have yud pointed kirik yod. That's going to have, we got to open with the Y sound here. And then we're going to follow with the two E's. Ye. So the word is on ye. On ye. On ye. Sounds like I'm saying only, but I'm saying on ye. Okay? So what about our next word here? All right, so we have a wa, and it's pointed patach. So take a look at the second letter in the sentence, or in the word. This is a silent letter, correct? So that means, how are we going to have to open with this wa sound? It's going to be a consonant, right? So we're going to pronounce it as a V. So we have a V sound here. This little line underneath tells us to pronounce an A. So that gives us va, va, va. Then we have, again, like I said, the silent letter ayin, but it's pointed with katef patak, so a shortened A sound. So we have va'a, va'a. Then we have the letter mem, right? And it's pointed kamatz, ma, ma. Then we have lamed, which we pronounce as an L, and it's pointed kirik yod. So two E's, the long E-L-I sound, the I sound, right? La, E. So we have va'a mali, va'a mali. All right? Va'a mali. All right? Va'a mali. So we have re'eh, on yi, va'amali. What about our next word here? All right. We have a wa pointed with vocal shva. So since we have a vowel sound in this vocal shva, which is what? The quick E, right? We've got to open with the consonant sound. So the, the. Then we have the letter sin. The indicator's on the left-hand side of this letter. So this means we're going to pronounce it as an S, not SH. If it was on this side, it'd be SH. But since it's on the left, it's an S. And then it's pointed kamatz with aleph behind it. So that gives us the sound sa. Okay, so we have the sa. All right, the sa. All right, so the sa. Everybody with me so far? All right, so we have re'e, onyi, va'amali, the sa. Now we have a hyphenated word here. So this word and the next word, they're both going to work together. Okay? They're going to work together. So we have a lamed, and it's pointed with vocal shva. So we have an L sound and a quick E. We know it's vocal shva. Remember, we talked about it last week. We know that it's vocal because it's under the first letter of the word. So le. Then we have a kaf, right? We have kaf, and we have a lamed, and look what we have underneath the kaf. Okay, it's not kamatz, what Kim likes to call not kamatz, right? It's kametz ketuf. So this is going to make an O sound because we could get into talking about declension and everything else, but we've got a vowel, a consonant sound opening the word and a consonant sound closing the word, kol, right? So that right there, and because it's the kaf lamed, we know that this is an O sound. So we have lechol, all right? Then we have a hyphen, and then what else do we have? What's this next part of the word? We have a chet, and it's pointed patach. So like a CH sound with a quick A, cha. What's this next letter? This kind of crazy looking letter. That's the letter tet, right? So that tet is pointed not only with a cholem, but there's a dagesh inside. So when we see the dot inside the letter, what's the first thing we ask ourselves? Is that baged kafat? So is that letter, is the tet, is that a baged kafat letter? No, it is not, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make this like two T's, like in the word bottle, right? So this first syllable, cha, becomes chat, like you burn your hand on it. It's hot, right? All right. So we would put a T on the end of the first syllable. So that goes from being cha to chat. Then we're going to take another T, right? Because I said we're going to double it. We're going to add this O sound. Now, this O is going to extend through this aleph and this wa. So those three together are going to give us what are those three letters together are going to give us what sound? To. Okay? So we have chato, and then we have a tav pointed kamatz. We know it's kamatz because of this little line next to it, this meteg, that tells us make sure we pronounce it as A. And then we have this yud on the end to give us an I or a Y sound. So T-A-I, tai. So we have chatotai. So we have lekol chatotai. Okay? So I'm going to back up here a lot. All right, and we're going to say all right. So here is our sentence. We've transliterated it, right? Let's read it together. We have re'e onyi va'amali vesa lechol chatotai. All right, let's do it again. Re'e onyi va'amali vesa lechol chatotai. Okay? Re'e onyi va'amali vesa lechol chatotai. All right. So the word re'e, what does that mean? To see. All right. Re'e means to see. Okay. So based on the sentence structure here, what we have is we're saying that somebody sees. Okay. So the person that we're talking to, they see something. Okay. So this re'eh, this we could kind of look at this as you see, because we're not being real specific, okay, about who's actually seeing it. But we know that somebody is. Since we don't have a yud here to be like you will see, we don't have a tav at the beginning, you have seen, right? We're talking about in the present. Okay? So we're saying you see. So re'eh, you see. Okay? Onyi. So what do we know about the word onyi? Okay, so if the yud, this guy right here, is being used as a suffix, what is that telling us? Personal ownership. It belongs to me. So what's my root word here? Oni. So does anybody remember what the word oni means? We have. So in Hebrew, the word oni, O-N-I, or O-N-E-E, all right? Oni means affliction. So if this is onyi, my affliction. So we're saying that this person, whoever they are, that they see my affliction. Okay? So we can say, you see my affliction. That makes perfect sense to me. Okay? What about va'amali? So the wa is being used as a prefix, which means and. And look what else we have. We have another yud on the end. So we could be saying, you see my affliction and my what? So what's our root word here? Amal. So the word amal. Amal, what does the Latin prefix mal mean? Or even in Spanish, we can say something is muy malo, right? What does that mean? It's bad. It's bad. Okay, so va'amali, and my, and the word amal means pain. Because pain is not good. Okay? So we're saying, you see my affliction and my pain. See, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Okay? What about vesa? Okay, so the wa, and. But what we have here is a conjugated word. We dropped a letter. Okay, So the letter that was dropped was the letter nun. So the nun would be in front of this sin. So we have the word nasa. Nasa. So when we think about nasa, we think about, it sounds like the word NASA, right? And what does NASA do? They make rockets and we shoot them into outer space. The word nasa in Hebrew means to lift up, okay? To give to somebody, to give it away, to offer it up, okay? So, vesa, and we dropped the nun, okay, because of the part of speech we have here, and it just becomes sa. So what we're saying is this is something that is it's going away, okay? So in this case, the word to lift up or to offer up is actually being used like to forgive something. Because if we have something that's in our life that's bothering us and it's causing us problems and we're struggling with it, what do we need to do with it? We got to give it to him, right? And then we can move on. So vesa, in this case, we could say, and you forgive. Because we're saying that this person sees something, right? So we're saying, you see or you look on my affliction and my pain, right? And forgive lechol. Now, we know that kol means all, right? So the lamed in front is telling us that it's in the direction of something. So he's forgiving something. But we know it's all of what? The chatotai. So, what do we know about chatotai? Okay, so the yud is on the end again. So it's something else I have. I have affliction and I have pain because of these chatotai. All right, so this I on the end, my, the ot means what? That's a feminine plural. So what is our root word? Chata. Chata. The word chata means a sin. All right? Chata, sin. Chatot, sins. So, to all sins, mine. Or sins of mine. Okay? So, all my sins. So, what he's saying is, you see my affliction and my pain, and you forgive all my sins. All right, we're looking at Psalm 25 and 18. And 25 and 18 in the King James translation says, look upon my affliction and my pain. So what it's saying is, it's basically, hey, you're not paying attention to me. You need to look at me. But that's not the case. We know that he sees the sparrow when it falls from its nest, right? We don't have to, jump up and down away. Hey, pay attention to me. I'm here. I've got a problem. He knows. But we do have to say something about it. All right? So here's the thing, though. What the psalmist is saying is, you see all of my pain. You see my affliction. All right? And you forgive my sins, all my sins. Okay? So that's what the psalmist is saying. I'm having pain and I'm having affliction and I'm having trouble because of my own actions. Remember, what did David do? He set poor old Uriah, set him up to get killed so that he could take Bathsheba, right? I think that's probably I think that's probably a pretty sinful thing, you know. And we know what happened, right? They had a child, the child died, there was all kinds of things that happened between David and Bathsheba because of this action. But the psalmist, what's great about this is that the psalmist realizes it's not because it's not because of something I didn't do. You're not punishing me unfairly, right? It's because of my own actions. And we have to remember, we're the ones, we cause ourselves far more pain than Hasatan ever did, right? Because we got to remember, Hasatan, he's not just running around, I think I'll pick on, Matityahu today, or he doesn't do that. We've seen several times where he has to go in front of the Father and say, hey, what about this person? What about, can I go do something? Can I try them? The Father sometimes even sets us up and says, hey, why don't you go test Brother Michael? Or why don't you go test Sister Tamara? Let's see what happens. How's my child going to act today? See what I'm saying? But a lot of times it's because of our own actions. What was that movie? I can do bad all by myself, right? I don't need no help to make mistakes. I'm a man, I'm going to make them. But anyway, like I said, this is Psalm 25 and 18. Okay, any questions? Don't see any? I'll move on to the next sentence. All right, so what about our next sentence here? I'm going to take this bar and put up here. So, first thing, we have a hyphenated word. Right? So, what's the first part of our hyphenated word here? Ki. We have a kaf. We know it's kaf. Got dagesh inside. Right? This is a beged kafat letter. So, it's going to make a hard K sound. And it's pointed kirikyo. So like two E's. So this word is pronounced ki, like what you use to open the door with, okay? Ki. Then there's a hyphen. What's our next word here? We have the letter aleph, silent letter, but it's pointed with patak, reduced or shortened A sound. Ah. Then we have a tav here. Is tav a beged kafat letter? Yes, it is, right? Got a dagesh inside, so what's that mean? First of all, we would have changed its sound if we were pronouncing it biblically. And then second of all, because we're following another vowel point, we're going to double this, okay? So this becomes at. Then we pick up the second T and the kamatz hey. Atta. So we have kiata. All right? Kiata. All right? So we know we're speaking to what gender? Masculine, because of the on the end. If we were speaking to a feminine gender, we would just say tiat, right? But since we're speaking to masculine, it's ata. All right? So what about our next word here? Okay, we have aleph, silent letter, pointed, katef patach, Then we have the letter dalet, and it's pointed cholem, right? So an O sound. D-O, do, do. Then we have a nun here, and it's pointed how? Kamatz with a yud behind it. So like N-A-I, nai. All right? A-do-nai. All right? Now, here's the thing. This word, a lot of people will use it as a stand-in for the Father's name. Okay? That is not being done here. It is being used in its sense as a title. Okay? It's not replacing anything. It is being used in a sense of a title. So, the psalmist is saying, you, right? And he's talking about this title here. We'll come back to that here in just a second. So, what's our next word that we have? Tov, right? We have the tet, and it's pointed cholemwa with a veit behind it. Tov, tov. All right? So, ki ata Adonai tov. Okay? What's our next word here? All right, so we have the wa, and it's pointed with vocal shva. So we know we have to pronounce it how? Like a V, because we've got a V sound and an E. So ve. Then we have this letter, samek, right? And it sounds like an S. And it's pointed with patak, short duration A. Sa. So we have vesa. Then we have lamed. And lamed is got a dagesh inside. So what are we going to do with it? We're going to double it. So this sa becomes sal. And we'll pick up the second L and the kamatz followed by chet. La, ach, lach. So we have vesalach. Vesalach. Okay, vesalach. Vesalach. All right. So we have ki atai Adonai tov vesalach. Now we have another hyphenated word here. All right. So what's the first part of our word? Verav. We have the wa pointed, shva again, vocal shva. So V, E, ve. Then we have the letter resh, and it's pointed with patach, short duration A, and then the letter veit, no dagesh. So it's going to sound like V, right? So we have av, rav. So we have vrav, and then what's our next word here? All right, we have the letter chet. Then we have segol, right? This is a quick E sound. So we have che. Then we have the samek, quick E, and the dalet makes a D sound. Ed. All right, so chesed. All right, so we have verav chesed. All right. So far, ki ata Adonai tov v'selach v'rav chesed. All right. What about our next sentence here, or our next piece? All right. Remember, we had lechol in our first sentence, right? Well, look, we've got it again. Lamed pointed vocal shava, kaf pointed with ketef kametz, and then lamed, lechol, right? So lechol. Oops. Yeah, it doesn't like to do that. All right, so lechol. All right, and what's this next part of our word here? All right, so we have the kuf pointed cholem, kol, right? Then we have a resh pointed how? Vocal. Vocal, because cholem and cholem wa both are long duration. So, since this is a long duration vowel point, we've got to use this as a vocal shava. Re. All right? Re. But we have aleph, which is silent. And look how it's pointed. It's pointed with segol and a yud. So how do we pronounce that? We've got a silent letter. All right? We're going to pronounce it as e. A, right? A, like the EI in 8, in the word 8. And then we have chaf sofit with kamatz inside. Cha. So we have korecha. Korecha. All right? So lechol, right? Korecha. Now I don't want to back up. Crazy thing. All right, so lekol korecha. So here's our sentence. We have ki ata Adonai tov v'salach v'rav chesed lekol korecha. All right. So ki ata, ki, for that, because ata, you. Okay. So for you, yes, sis.
Oh, my microphone's on the whole time. I'm sorry. So why is it not to you? Because I've heard like in it, like if you say shalom alecha or
Mm-hmm.
it's not to you. It's just
It is to you.
okay. But this is I'm sorry.
This is korecha.
Koreka.
Mm-hmm. We haven't even gotten there yet. You're jumping the gun. It sounds like something, but that's not what it is. It's like bear and bear, right? Okay, so let's get there and then, all right, so let's do that. So we have for you, who? My master, right? So Adonai, it means my master, but we're not using it to replace the name here. Okay, we are using it as an honorific, but we're not using it to replace the name. If we look, that's the wording that's used there. It's not like the word Yahweh was there and then you're just pronouncing it as Adonai, which is what a lot of people will do. That's what they do in the scroll. That's what they do in the Torah. The Yud He Wah He will be there, but they will pronounce it as another word. Okay? In the WLC, which is where I get mine from, the Westminster Leningrad, okay? The word there is Adonai, but it's not being used as a way to replace the Father's name. It's being used as an honorific. Do y'all understand what that means? You know what an honorific is. No shame in saying you don't. Okay, so if I saw the CEO of my company and I called them Mr. President, right? That is an honorific. It's a title. Okay? It's a title of honor. It's an appellation. If I said, if somebody came to me, what's my title? I am the QA manager. So if they said, I'd like to speak with your QA manager, they know who they're talking about. It's a title, right? But this word here is not being used to replace the Father's name. Okay? He's calling him my master. So the psalmist is staying on a lower level, right? But there's no place here in this scripture where the name was taken out. And do you see what I'm saying? So we can use it in that sense. We're not using it to replace his name. So the psalmist is saying, for you, my master, And then we have tov. We know that tov means good, right? So that doesn't make sense to us. We know, or for you, my master, good. We need to link it, right? So that type of word in our language, in English, right, is called a cupola. And we need to add something like R. We wouldn't say, my master, for you, my master is good. So we would say, my master, you are good. It's a state of being, right? So for you, my master, are good. So what about the salah? So the word salah does mean to forgive. All right? So the wa at the beginning, and salah, and he's good and forgiving. Does that make sense? Okay? You are good and forgiving. All right? Then we have another wa here. So we know he's so he's good and forgiving, and the word rav, great. So this great can mean large, but it can also mean plenteous or abundant or numerous. Okay? So he's good and he's forgiving and he's great. And it says chesed here. So we know that the word chesed means kindness. Now, the King James translates chesed as mercy, but that's not the right word. The word for mercy is racham, all right? But the King James translates chesed as mercy, but it really means kindness, okay? So he is good and forgiving and great in kindness. What about lekol korecha? So lekol, in this case, to all. All right? And now here's your question, sis. Korecha. Right? It's not elecha, it's korecha. So echa is a suffix. This part right here, echa, on the end, that's a suffix that means what? You. Right? So what is our root word here? Kara. Kara. What does the word kara mean? To call out. So korecha, he's good and kind and merciful, and to who? To all who call upon you. Korecha, call out to you. Okay? So the echa, you, right? The lekol, to all. So we know that we're talking about, we're working off the word kara, the root word kara, which means to call out. So he is merciful and kind and to those who do what? Who call out to him. Right? The scriptures tell us that with the mouth, confession is made unto what? Salvation. We have to call out, right? We have to vocalize. We have to speak it. Now, I'm not talking about claim it, name it, and all that. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm saying is, when we have an issue, when we need forgiveness, when we need help, we have to call out. And this is what he's saying. My master, you are good, and you're forgiving, and you are great in kindness to those who call out to you. So anybody who tells you, I'm just praying a silent prayer, la, 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 okay, but every time we've seen them pray in the scriptures, they did what? They prayed out loud. When things were created in the garden, how were they created? They were spoken, all except for man, right? Everything else was spoken into existence. So, again, got This is Psalm 86 and 5. And the King James says, "For you, my master, are good and ready to forgive, and plenteous in mercy unto all them that call upon you." So it's the same thing. It's just a little bit floofier words, but it's all translated the same. All right, very good, very good. Any questions on this sentence? No? Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, so we're going to move on to our paleo word here. So what's the first letter that we have here? That's the letter chet, right? So let me put my little text box up here, and I'm going to put a CH in there, right? Then I'm going to put a, what's my next letter here? That's a mem, right? And then what about this last one? That's a lamed. So in order to pronounce this, I need to have some vowels in between these consonants, right? I'm going to make it chamal. All right, so I'm going to make it chamal. Huh? Oh. Yeah, do you know what it means? No. No. That's amal. Amal is pain. Well, chamal is the root. It's a root, right? Amal is a root, and so is chamal. But chamal means to commiserate. So, do we know what commiserating is? Do you know what that means? It means to sympathize with somebody. Okay? Brother, I know you're going through some stuff, and I feel your pain. You know what I mean? And I'm here to talk and listen, and I got a shoulder you can cry on. That's commiserating. Okay? That's listening to somebody, letting them vent their spleen, as it were, right? Yeah, I know. It's a Shakespearean thing. So, but you're letting them, but it means to commiserate, right? To feel sympathy for somebody. Okay? So here's the thing. Let's take a look at each letter. So what does the letter chet? What does the letter chet? What does that symbolize? What is it? What about the letter chet? What is it? It's a fence. It's a boundary. It can also be a ladder, right? So the concept of ascending and descending is tied up within this word or in this letter. So we see ascend. Okay? We see ascend. All right. What about the mem? What is the mem? The mem is water, right? It's the anointing. All right. But it can also be its emotions, but it can also be what? On the negatives, they can be chaos, right? So I'm going to put chaotic, right? I'm also going to put emotion. Okay. So we have ascend. We have chaotic emotion. What about the lamed? What is the lamed? It's a shepherd's staff or an ox goad, right? So that speaks to us of what? Guidance, okay? It also speaks to us of instruction. I put both, guidance and instruction. All right? So we have ascend, we have chaotic emotion, we also have guidance or instruction. So, a lot of times we see people, we see family, we see friends, people we don't know, we see people on the street corner, and a lot of times, Dad spoke about this last night when he was talking about the Good Samaritan. Remember we talked about that for a little bit last night? And we look at that person and we're like, well, I wonder what they did. Kind of like those guys that when they had the blind dude, right? And all those guys were like, hey, was it his parents that sinned or was it him? Or, Well, you know what I mean? A lot of times we think like that, you know, and we see people and they get themselves in trouble. And a lot of times it's really, really easy to defer to our baser human nature and feel like, well, they must have done something to deserve what they're going through, right? They got themselves into it. There must have been something terrible. Sometimes it's just something that happens. Accidents happen, right? Things occur that are beyond our control sometimes. All right? But when we do that, when we look at a person, oh, well, they deserve that, or this was, when we're doing that, right? What about the part where Yahushua said, and the second one is like unto this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So why aren't we loving our neighbor as ourselves? Why aren't we trying to help that person instead of trying to figure out what they did wrong? Okay? That person may be where they are through their own actions, but that does not mean that we need to harden our hearts to their situation. Amen? All right? We need to remember, you've heard it said many, many times, there but for the grace of Yahweh go I. It could be any of us in that situation. It could be your brother or your sister or your child out there holding up that sign. Or it could be one of them living on the street or whatever. Okay? Compassion, which chamal, commiseration, this is another word, compassion, right? The textbook definition, this is from Webster's, I took it directly out of Webster's. It means a sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. So like I said, what if it was us in that situation? Wouldn't we want somebody to be kind to us and at least try to find out, maybe there may not be anything they could do, but it would feel good to know that somebody cared enough to say, hey, is there something I can help you with? Right? If it was you or your child or your nephew or whatever, you would want someone to help them. So that is the base reason why we need to be ready to help others. Okay? So when we lower ourselves to try and see things from their viewpoint, all right, we are ascending or coming up from our chaotic emotions. Oh, I wonder what they did. What'd they do wrong? Oh man, I wish I knew what. Oh, yeah. That's none of your business. Okay? So we're ascending from that baser nature, right? And when we do that, we're trying to offer a place of guidance, help, instruction. What can we do? All right? When that happens, not only do they learn that there's another way, not only do they learn that they are not alone, right? And we learn not only how to help that person, but also how to help others, maybe to not get into that situation in the first place, whatever it might be. So that's the word chamal. And in the scriptures today, like I said, it's used for the word compassion. All right. And it's just like Joseph. Joseph knew what his brothers had done to him. He knew all that stuff that they put him through. He knew all that time being down there, you know, in the hands of the Ishmaelites and the Midianites, right? And being sold to Potiphar, right? And being lied on by Zuleika, right? And having to go back to the jail, right? And all of that. So he remembered all of those things. He didn't forget none of that. He remembered that. But he knew that it was much more important to show compassion to the family so that many more could be saved alive than it was to get any kind of revenge or to go to his lower self and say, oh, y'all done me this way? Watch what I do to you. It's completely in my power to do this or this. Yeah, he messed with them. You know what I mean? But I think that was just kind of like, hey, you know what I mean? Y'all, shoe's kind of on the other, the foot's on the other shoe. The shoe's on the other foot, so to speak. But like I said, in the end, he showed great compassion on them and the entire family and saved the whole group of people. So remember, when we see a person that's in need, scriptures say that when you see a poor brother, that we're supposed to open our hand wide, right? So let's try to be more cognizant of a person who's in pain, a person who sometimes somebody just needs someone to talk to. Sometimes that's all they need, right? Sometimes they just need a hug, right? But let's be there for them. Don't worry about what they did or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because that's between them and Yahweh. You be there for the moment, for that compassion and that shoulder that they may need. So anyway, that's the word chamal. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for being with us here today in our Hebrew class.